Don't stop. Don't stop. Like anyone should know. Like anyone should know. You brought the cheese into my life. You plopped it down onto a plate. You made me feel like you didn't know what you were doing. What you were doing. You brought the veg into my life. You sliced it up on that same plate. You made me feel like you didn't know what you were doing. What you were doing.
Yeah, that's about enough of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our theme song.
It's a great one, man. I mean, it's catchy. It's got good lyrics. It's got a bouncy tune.
That's if you look at the theme of the show, that's actually part of the theme. It is in fact an idea that went away and got swallowed up by the guinea pig, and he spit it up immediately because it was disgusting. He's so aboard that idea. But hey, there we are.
Hey, here you are.
Decided to pull us up on screen. So
hey, great. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Bob. This is the 60-foot Guinea Pig podcast, and this is your first time joining us.
I know. I was so happy to be asked to fill in for the always amazing Bradley Walker, who was unable to be here tonight. Oh, always. I mean, he's a guy.
Yeah. I mean, what are you saying? All guys are awesome? Because we're not about that.
Oh, no. He's truly awesome.
Okay.
And accomplished and an all-around good guy.
He certainly is. I wanted to briefly introduce you. Bob, I've known you for probably about 2 years now, I want to say.
2 or 3, yeah.
I think it's been 2 or 3 years. And you are an actor. I could say that.
Yes.
You are a voice actor.
Yes.
You play musical instruments.
Yes. All sorts of musical instruments. I started playing in like school band, the baritone horn, when I was in the 5th grade, and then really quickly realized that you weren't going to have dates because you played a baritone horn. So then I picked up guitar, and one thing led to another. Guitar, bass, singing, all that stuff. Rock and roll. It was wonderful.
Rock and roll.
And then, did some theater stuff, did some musical theater stuff, some on-camera stuff, some voice acting things. And I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy that you are here, Bob. And let me ask you this. Are there any things, any creative longings, any directions that you've gone that have been swallowed up by something? I have a 60-foot guinea pig that swallows up my ideas and keeps a hold of them and banks them for later, or just digests them, and I never see them again. What is one of those that you hold on to dearly or don't?
Oh, well, the one I'm holding on to dearly is I want to write, and I've done bits and pieces and snatches of it, a book about my grandfather. Yes.
And who was your grandfather, might I ask?
Grace Bell Beamer, also known as the Lone Ranger.
Hey, yeah.
Not on TV before that radio thing.
The radio.
But and he was his life story is just absolutely amazing. He was the youngest member of the American Expeditionary Forces in World War I. He was 14 years old. Got gassed and hit with shrapnel and stuff. There are stories of him doing an Indiana Jones, like down between the mules pulling the wagons with the cannon shells, and him driving it up the hill to to where the cannons were, and they're under fire. It's just crazy.
But no giant Egyptian monoliths and snakes or
anything? No. That was left out of it for some reason. And I've never really understood why, but he just, was just not at the right place at the right time.
I guess not. Yeah. There's
only one Harrison Ford. He hated snakes. He hated them. He used to pay my mom and her brother, it's like 10 cents for every snake that they brought. And they weren't scared of snakes. And so, and they would bring like a long fishing pole, and have like tens of them laid out across the fishing pole. And this is back a long time ago when 10 cents was real money.
Tens of snakes?
tens of snakes. I mean,
Wow.
like 40 or 50 of them.
I guess there's some cultures that use that as an exchange method.
You can make belts.
Uh-huh.
You can make other sorts of decorative devices.
Sure.
They were non-poisonous, which was
Uh-huh.
fortunate for all of them. But my grandfather's not big on the snakes thing.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
not many of us are. There are
No.
some snake enthusiasts out there, and I imagine our guest today may be a snake enthusiast, although he
Could
did
be.
mention that he has some cats in the house, and I don't think that they go well together, so maybe not.
No. Mm.
But again, Bob, I thank you so much for filling in for the
The otherwise occupied.
otherwise occupied Bob Bradley Walker. I may
Yeah.
actually refer to one or both of you as the other's name at some point, so I apologize for that.
Oh, I would be honored. It would be really bad for Bradley's reputation, but I'd be honored.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm super happy that you asked me to do it. I love doing this
Hey,
stuff.
that's
And you're a lot of fun to work with. That's all I'm going to say.
oh, come on.
Oh yeah, we've done some stuff.
We've done quite a few things, and actually we've
Mhm.
done some stuff with our guests. That sounded
Yes.
weird. I'm sorry. But well,
It's
before
okay.
I totally drive this point into the ground, our guest today is Ryan Joseph Murphy. He is an actor. He uses his voice. He understands audio, and he also has an amazing podcast all about something that occupies our minds often, and that is fear. So I'm going to bring him up here now if I can. Let's see if he's. Are you done with the treats in the green room? I think he's probably eaten everything back there by now. So
The charcuterie, the tray,
the
charcuterie tray.
yes,
Yeah, that,
the thing with the
it
meat
was-
and the cheese. Here he
I
is,
hit it
ladies and gentlemen.
before it showed up.
Ryan Joseph Murphy. Hold your applause.
I didn't see any charcuterie board, but I did see a ton of like eyeballs and just like guts and stuff. And I was like, man, you guys really know how to make your guests feel special. So thank you for that. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, very sweet of you guys.
Hey,
Okay.
low in calories. That's what I hear. So, Ryan, gosh, it's been a minute since we got to do anything together. Although you did reach out to me recently to help out with a little something.
100%. You were great.
Yeah, thanks. And I want to share some of the stuff we've done in the past, just so people get a
Please.
reason why we know each other.
Love it.
So Auditorium was an effort, or is an effort, I guess you could say, that would you say it started on the Clubhouse app?
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
we that was the days of Clubhouse that I think were the most fun. And those days were a lot of fun to experiment with live audio. We were doing a ton of like table reads and like live productions. And yeah, that was honestly a really fun time in general, for just kind of like, we were still kind of stuck indoors. I don't think the vaccine was out yet for COVID. And so we were kind of still like, well, how do we keep creatively going, and what are we doing? And yeah, we did live table reads of Scream with Tori Spelling. We did Get Out. We did Friday the 13th with Kelly Maroney on Friday the 13th. We did just a bunch of different stuff. And then Bob, you know, we were kind of doing pseudo weekly ones. We did Dracula, and we did during October, we did like House on Haunted Hill, and then we also did The Hobbit. We did stuff on Reddit. The Reddit stuff was honestly fantastic. I mean, I did a live production called Live Scream, which was a immersive live haunted house kind of like experience on Reddit when they were doing the Reddit talk. And that was so much fun. And it was like a live kind of walkthrough, and we had like people come up and ask us questions, and we kind of like, it was kind of improv mixed in with scripted. And then we did The Hobbit live on Reddit, and that was awesome. People really enjoyed that. Yeah, man, it was a blast. And that was, I got to connect with all you guys who obviously did Monster Talk too, Chris, which was super fun. And it was kind of a great combination of improv, voice acting, scripted. And yeah, it honestly, it's what got me into wanting to do a podcast in the first place. Cause I was like, well, I really miss this and I want to do more of it, but I just don't want to be tied to these to these social media apps that are going to change their stuff every 5 seconds. So
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you walked into that app now, it's a totally different experience.
No, it's not even. Yeah, it doesn't even feel recognizable at this point. Like it's
No.
it's like I'm walking into a complete new world, and I don't really like it. And but that was a special time. There was that 2-year little sphere there where it felt like it was like anything could happen, anyone could pop in, and they did, and like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think the first room that I was ever on stage, Justine Bateman was on stage, and she was acting like she was. It was called, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the club. It was called Oldies, but Oldies Time Radio or Oldies something. I can't remember what it was. It was like the House of Oldies. So she immediately assumed that she was supposed to act like she was an old person, but it was really the disc jockey was just playing old tunes in the background. So it was just kind of funny, this interplay that was going on. And I immediately was drawn in. I was like, this is amazing. And I could be up on stage with her. That's crazy. And so yeah, it was a special time. And were you involved in Stranger Things when we did it?
I don't think I was involved in it, but I heard it and it was really good.
Okay.
And then I know that my buddy Min did Star Trek also, which was really good. And it was really fun. It was experimental. It was like kind of like this live theater thing. I mean, people were doing musicals on there. They did The Lion King. That went viral, and it was like really good. It was so much fun. And again, I just missed that time period. I mean, I think Adam McKay was on there at one point, and he was doing like a live commentary of Don't Look Up, and that's officially kind of like the only live commentary that's ever been done for that movie because Netflix doesn't have one. I don't know. It was so much different time, and it was just really, like you said, it was so cool to like be on stage with people. You're like, oh my God, I'm on stage with blah, blah, blah right now. And they're just talking. It was so wild. Like it was honestly, it felt like the one time where social media kind of bridged that thing where Twitter was cool because you could kind of like get retweeted by people or whatever. And then Clubhouse kind of moved it one step further. It was like, oh, you can talk to people right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was fun.
We were very fortunate.
Yeah, we were. That time period is never coming back. And like, that's the sad part. But at the same token, it was such a cool experience for what it was. And like, I met so many talented people through that app in that short a period of time. And then again, I'm not exaggerating when I say a majority of the people who have been in my show are from Clubhouse. Like I would say probably 70%, so far 70 to 80% are there. And I just met so many talented people.
So let's talk about that a minute. Let's talk about your podcast. Like, what was it that made you finally pull the trigger on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. For a long time, what happened was that we originally had a concept. It was called Welcome to the Horror Show. And it was a series of shorts that we had made right when Quibi was kind of getting big, and people were anticipating in Hollywood a couple months before COVID hit. They were like, well, we're going to start to monetize short form, high quality concepts because this is kind of where things are moving to. And of course, the pandemic hits and Quibi has probably the worst rollout of anything ever in terms of their just kind of idiocy in rolling this thing out. We were trying to pitch this thing. Pandemic hits. It doesn't really take off. We're like bummed out. And then for me, I kind of went into I was really bummed out about it. And because I love anthology horror. That's like one of my biggest loves is like Tales from the Crypt, The Twilight Zone, Are You Afraid of the Dark? All of these great anthologies that I grew up with. And I was like, I really want to make one of my own. And, I found Clubhouse. We started doing these things. I found a really love of like scripted audio. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. I really enjoy this. And then when kind of Clubhouse started going into a different direction where we couldn't be as experimental and we couldn't kind of really do this stuff anymore, I was really looking at like, well, where do I want to spend my time creatively? And there was murmurs about a strike, about SAG having a strike, about the writers having a strike. And I was like, look, I got to find a creative outlet. And at this point, for me, it was like, I've wanted to do this for a long time. I'd been listening to audio dramas to be like kind of figuring out, okay, what do these things have? What are they kind of doing? And I was like, yeah, I want to do one of my own. And so I was able, to kind of get a little group of producers together to kind of help me stay on task, look at scripts. And then I just started slowly casting these things and writing these things. And yeah, it finally kind of came together. And now we have 7 episodes officially out. The 8th episode is about to be done. That'll be released next week on Halloween. And then the 9th episode will be done a couple of weeks. We'll be released in a couple of weeks. And then we'll have probably a couple more before we take a little hiatus. But the response has been fantastic. Like I can't even, if you had told me before this, like, oh, this is what you do, I'd be like, great. Like I'm already good. But it's gotten bigger in just a very short period of time than I ever thought it would be. And I'm really happy that I just took the plunge and just said, let's do this thing.
Yeah. And I got to say, it's not just the telling of the story. It is, the writing is phenomenal. I love it. Every one of the stories has like this pull in it that you don't expect. I'm going to say what my favorite is. And it's Leviathan.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I wrote it's first off, thank you for those kind words. I don't really consider myself a writer first and foremost. I consider myself kind of an actor, producer. But writing was kind of thrust on me because I was like, I have to have an idea of what this show looks like, because I can't go to writers and be like, hey, create my show for me. Like, that's just not viable. So I was like, I need to write this and figure out what the tone is that I want to do. And I was like, yeah, I really want to lean into this Tales from the Crypt kind of Twilight Zone vibe. And Leviathan for me is, I've always had a love of Evil Dead. Like that's one of my favorite horror franchises. And there's not a lot of space horror that kind of focuses on demonic kind of like, I don't know, just I love like Dead Space. That's one of my favorite horror games. And I was like, I want to do something that has that thing. And so doing a kind of episode where it focuses like kind of a Ripley-esque person on a ship, but they're facing something supernatural that's not necessarily alien. I really wanted to do something like that. And I think a lot of people have listened to that one and said, yeah, this is really good. And so, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And the best part of it is that you left it at the end open-ended. And you get everybody. I mean, I was like, yeah, I want more.
Sequel.
I know, right? Yeah.
Leviathan 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something. I don't know. That's just an idea. Just the hurting would be good.
Take away.
So I'm just going to give a quick shout out to one of my mentors here, Paulette Lifton is watching, and
hi Paulette.
Hey there.
Kind words from Paulette. So, and let me ask you this, because I said it's not just you telling a story. There is the writing. There's also the acting, which you brought in some clear voice talent in there, myself included, of course.
100% yourself included. Yes, no, don't downplay that. We're gonna have you in another episode soon. With a bigger role. But I appreciate you kind of assisting me in the last episode. I really needed that little bit of extra to kind of add to that, which is the Halloween special, which is kind of a homage to these 60s, 70s really corny Halloween specials that we I didn't have them growing up, but I watched a lot of them. And I love those. And so I was like, we need an announcer, and you crushed it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I got to say, I didn't know who I would be up with, but I'm really excited that Josh Rubin was the next voice that we heard, and telling of the Telltale Heart. Just a genius way of telling that. And honestly, I only knew Josh Rubin from College Humor. I did not know that he was such a horror aficionado as well.
Oh, yeah. He is. I cannot sing Josh's praise. He is one of the nicest, coolest guys in the horror sphere. He is so
That's
so
an actual
talented.
term, horosphere.
Oh yeah,
Horosphere.
horosphere. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, he's so talented and so cool. And yeah, we worked with him on Scream, which was Tori Spelling. Worked with him again on Get Out. He was played a role in that. And then yeah, I asked him because he had just released his new graphic novel Darla, which is he wrote. And then I was just asking him like, hey man, I know you're promoting this right now, and he's got a film he's directing next year, assuming that the SAG strike is over, which I'm hoping it will be by then. He's directing a film next year, and it's going to be fantastic. But he directed Werewolves Within. He created a film called Just Scare Me, which is a great Halloween movie. Fantastic. And I just said, hey, man, I really want to do The Telltale Heart, and I know you'll crush this. Would you mind doing this? And he's like, yeah. Dude, show me the script. When do you need to buy it? And I was like, yeah. And he's just the coolest, nicest dude that I've connected with. And I can't sing his praises enough. He's so cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I've got to pull this up real quick because I love this aspect of it. Let's see if I could do this properly. I'll just pull it up.
Technology.
Technology.
What are you going to do?
Share screen window. Halloween special. Yes. So not that specifically, but every single one of these tiles, these artworks are meticulously paying homage to the comic genre of horror. And I can tell that you're a huge fan of Creepshow. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, it's clearly, when Ghostly is my artist, and he kind of specializes in like that 50s to 70s kind of EC Comics homage horror artwork. And so yeah, every episode has its own cover, and that was something that I really wanted for this show, is that I really wanted every episode to feel unique in that vein of having this image that would just kind of like give you a little preview for what you're about to see, or about to hear, I should say. And it was working with him, he's so great. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say I shoot him the script, or I shoot him the recording. He gets back to me within 5 to 8 days with already a cover made up, and then we just kind of do a couple of little notes. But he's so good at analyzing, just kind of like, yeah, let's go to this central thing. And I'm so happy that people have loved the artwork. That's something that hopefully in the future I would love to be able to kind of like, do t-shirts and stuff.
I want a hat.
Yeah. Because some of them are just so awesome, and I would rock them daily. Like they're just such cool visuals. And that is one thing that I really wanted, because I think that's I think for us as horror fans, it's such a specific thing. We need some type of imagery to kind of like really pull us into the mood. And I think that he just really does a great job. And then, like you said, Creepshow is such a massive influence. Those Tales from the Crypt comics from the 50s and 60s are so cool. And those covers are those are the things that, as me as like a horror fan, like that's what I really gravitate to. And then I think the story kind of, has that pulpy element that kind of goes into it, where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to have something that's fun, that's scary, that's, and like you said, like a little bit, I try to add in a little bit of social cues to some episodes, but it's not something that always needs to be there for me. But when it does be there, I think it's always a lot of fun. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to hog all this time, Bob. Please.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Chris.
No. I thought maybe you might have a question.
Yeah, actually, I did.
Okay.
So Ryan, could you talk a little bit about how you've come to find your collaborators? Because a lot of times that's really hard to do, to find, a team of people that are reliable, that share your vision and are really good.
Yeah. I mean, number one, like I have been spoiled throughout my life to meet so many incredibly talented people. I don't know how it happens. I try to be kind to everyone. I've gone to so many acting classes. I've seen so many insanely talented people that, we as actors, we as creatives, we know that this industry is like 90% luck. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes to why people get roles, and we've seen that constantly. But I know that most actors I meet are really talented and supremely gifted. And so for me, what I do is a lot of the times is when I'm writing my stuff, I really think about like whose voice is going to fit this, like whose voice is going to give this gravitas. And so, when I thought about like specifically the episode Bump in the Night with Kaylee and Mark Redfield, I was like, Mark's voice is going to be perfect for this because he's going to have that tone that really is going to carry this. And Kaylee just does a great job of conveying kind of like fear and kind of like emotion in a way that feels very like visceral. And so for me, it's just been like really finding every role that I think will fit with people. And like, I just, it's been a situation where I've heard this phrase so many times and I try to practice it. You will never get anything in life if you don't ask for it. And so for me, it's like when I have something and I'm like, you know what, this is a great role. This is a great script. I'm going to ask this person. I mean, I ask them, they say, yeah, let me read the script. Bam, here you go. And they're like, yeah, I'll do it. When do you need this by? And so, it's just been one of those situations. And I think that every act, it's been such a great experience to do something where you as an actor do not have to wait for anyone's permission to do anything. And because that's all we're doing most of the time is we're waiting for permission from other casting directors, from other directors, from producers to tell us what to do. And I think that there's some really essence of freedom to being like, you know what, I'm going to just act and I'm going to have other people act with me and we're going to do a great job and people are going to listen to it and they're really going to enjoy it. And my only hope is like, this leads to some essence of work for people like that people hear this and they go, oh, wow, this is really good. I'm going to have so-and-so on this next VO thing, or I'm going to look up so-and-so and ask them if they want to audition for my project. And again, like the first episode, Dominic Oliver, he's done so many amazing work throughout the years. He hasn't really worked much in the last 5-10 years, but he was the original person who read for Tony Soprano for The Sopranos. He did the original table read for that. And I was like, and he's been a friend of mine forever. He's so crazy talented. Bradley was in that episode. Veronica, I mean, Matt Catanzano in the second episode, Whitney in the third episode. I mean, there's just, Sarah Booth was just recently on an Amazon Prime show for Leviathan. I mean, I'm spoiled with the amount of great actors that have appeared. And then Chris, your voice on that, Bob, we will have you on an episode soon. I promise. And so, yeah, really. But no, you guys are all really talented. And so I've worked with you guys before and it's just about like figuring out like what's the right episode, what's the right voice, what's the right tone, and really just approaching everybody with respect. I try not to waste anyone's time when I approach them, and I know how hard the audition process is for people. So I usually just say like, do you want to do this role or not? Because I wrote this for you. If you don't, I'll find someone else. But unless I'm really doing a massive search or something, which is rare, I hate the audition process and I hate having people to go through that. So yeah.
I hate it too.
I think we all do. Yeah, it sucks.
We're all
sure I have to audition for this. It's really God,
it's great that you're very fortunate that you've been in a situation where, partly because of where you are in terms of location, and as you were saying, being able to, in being in these various acting classes, you've just met such a wonderful cadre of actors. And
and I was going to say too, Bob, I mean, Clubhouse, I was saying, allowed me to meet you guys. It allowed me to meet a ton of the people that I've worked with because we all had our voice. And I was like, oh yeah, no, these people can tell a story. Their voices are great. Like I want to include them in this, and I want to have them. Sonia Mobley is going to be on an episode soon, and she's fantastic.
Was here earlier, actually.
Yeah. I was listening. Sorry,
she's fantastic, and so I'm just really excited to have all of these people on that I just really respect, and I think that they're just really good, and I'm like, I want people to hear them and just know that like, this has all been an independent production at this point. There really has been no money for marketing. There's been nothing for that. And
yes, and where can people go to help out with that?
I mean, yeah, if you guys want to check it out, it is on every podcast platform at this point. It's called Your Horror Show. It's reviews are cool. If you guys want to leave them, that's fun. I mean, honest, I'm not exaggerating when I say the funniest thing about podcasting is that you will see it grow almost naturally if you're consistent with it. It will really, because people will talk to other people, they will talk to other people, they will talk to other people, and it'll kind of grow just kind of naturally. And it's such a cool thing to see because we are so addicted to the dopamine release of social media where it's like, I need 15,000 views on this video right now. And like, that's just, it's not how podcasting is. And it's never how podcasting was.
We've got 19. We've got 19.
Yeah. I was going to say, but that's the funny thing about podcasting is you're connecting with somebody one-on-one, right? Like they're listening to something that's sometimes a half an hour long in their ear and you're connecting with them one-on-one. It's a totally different experience than just watching a video on your phone for 30 seconds and then throwing it away. You're usually gaining something more through a podcast and really connecting with people. And that's why you see some of these podcasts are just massive because people have connected with what they're writing, with what they're saying. And it's really transformed things. So we have to reframe our idea of what it is. And so, but just the fact that, yeah, man, like, you know, when we released our last episode, we have 200 people listen to it on the first day. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. And it just goes up every, you know, little bit every single time. And it's so fun to watch. So,
yeah.
Great. Yeah. And I will say the great thing about the podcast as opposed to the videos on social media is that, well, they're a lot safer when you're driving.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, exactly.
That is true.
Yeah,
that's what I liked about Clubhouse. It was pretty safe. Well, except you had to click on and off all the time.
Yeah, right.
Cast people in the audience, kick them out of the room, that kind of thing.
No.
Oops.
So I wanted to ask you: are there any like I talk about this a lot where I have ideas. I wake up in the middle of the night and I have 1,000 ideas, and they're never written down anywhere. They're not solidified anywhere. So where do those go? Have you had one that you were just like you hate yourself because you never grasped that one, you never wrote it down? And are you willing to share it?
Yeah, no, I am actually. I had an idea so there's the newest episode that's coming out this coming week. A little spoiler here, but it's called Echoes. And it features my good friend Jenny Lorenzo, who's a phenomenal actress, social media kind of influencer, and then Melissa Medina is also in it as well, and she's great. But I originally had an idea for an episode called The Witching Hour, and the idea was going to be like a riff on horror hosts, and she was going to play this horror host called Druella the Damned, and she has her own show, and she then like through whatever supernatural things happen, she then kind of gets like haunted by like stuff in her house. And I was trying to do something like a homage to like classic horror, to like, you know, the idea of like, you know, I love watching during Halloween season like the Wolfman and all of the Universal monsters and the Hammer horror films, because they're just so aesthetically fun.
I caught that in one of the episodes. You do talk about that in one of the episodes.
Yeah. So. I love those so much, but I couldn't crack the story. Like I really couldn't crack with the idea of what this story was actually about. So funny enough, the story eventually became about writing itself. And that's where kind of like, I was like, what am I tapping into right now? What is my greatest fear? I was like, oh, my greatest fear is that I can't come up with a fucking idea. So I'm going to write that. So yeah, that's kind of what it became. And, it was all the better for it. But yeah, I try to write down all my ideas on like a little note thing on my phone where I have like a bunch of titles a lot of the time, where I get a title idea where I'm like, oh, Dead Inn, like INN. I was like, oh, maybe it's like an inn that we can do something in where like it's a little cabin or something like what, or bed and breakfast. What would happen there? And so I usually start with the title, and then I kind of work off of that. And then I start to go, okay, cool. How is this? What's the concept? How many characters would we have? And then like, what's the story here? But it happens a lot where I have an idea, I write it down, and then I'll look back at it in a week and I'll say like, so is there a kernel here that I like? Like, would I want to write this? And then usually, you know, it's 10 to 20 pages in that range that I write for the show. So
that's amazing. That's
great.
Yeah. And you weren't a writer, and so now you are.
Yeah, it's so weird to think of myself as a writer, because I really don't think of myself in that way. But the more I've written for the show, it's so funny because my girlfriend's read so much of my work throughout the years, and she's like, babe, you are such a better writer now than you ever were before. And like, it's so funny because the writing process is so infuriating, because you're just rewriting, you're rewriting. And it becomes like really almost like a ritual that you have to complete. And I go through this thing where it's like by the middle of it, I'm so angry at the piece because I'm like, I can't, it's so annoying. And then by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I like it. And like, that's, I'm like, okay, let's send this to an actor now.
Yeah. I get
but
that.
it's getting through it. It's having that perseverance.
100%.
Going through the
100%,
grass.
Bob. Yeah. No, you have to have that endurance. And I think that what this podcasting thing has taught me too is the idea of there is God in consistency. Like there is a higher power in being consistent. Not that doesn't mean that every episode is going to be perfect or every episode is going to be the best thing you've ever heard, but there's a certain fulfillment as an artist of just saying, I'm going to be consistently doing this and like consistently putting this out, because then you get into a rhythm where you're saying, I'm not going to judge my work so harshly every single time. I'm going to let this have maybe a couple little flaws in it, but I'm still going to release it because I believe in it. And I think there's a certain freedom in that we as artists don't always see, because we're so obsessed with perfection. We're so obsessed with like, this has to be the best thing ever. And I'm like, it's okay. It's going to have its flaws. Our favorite things have flaws. Like the things that we love all have flaws. But it's about what can you accept as an artist that you can say, I can have this out in the world and I can be judged by this. And if people like it, great. And if they don't, it's cool. Move on. Just next thing. So
Next
Yeah,
thing.
that perfectionism is such a trap. And there's so much writing that is done that never, I'll say, sees the light of day, because it's strangled by that sense of perfectionism, when in fact it would be wonderful and people would love it.
Right.
100. Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Bob. I couldn't agree more. It's true. It's very true.
Yeah. Your own sense of your creative endeavors is so much, you're so narrowly focused on what needs to be done, and people see so much more beauty in what you do than you yourself do. I went a long way to say that, but you know what I'm saying?
All good.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's been a great process of just trying to let that go and realize that, like, yeah, it's not going to be everything, but it will be something to me, and hopefully it'll be something to others. And you start to realize that people are like, yeah, this is good. I'm going to listen to this. And like I said, it's about just saying to yourself, I'm going to be consistently doing something. People can expect this from me. And then you start to feel like a little bit of like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, let's put it out. And then like, let's see what people think. If they don't like it, yeah, great. Move on to the next one. So
it's like your girlfriend said, as you keep going, it gets better.
Yeah, 100%. You don't realize it too. I think it's the big thing is like, we don't realize the little small steps we take every step of the way. It's like when you go to class, it's just a little bit better every time. And then it's a little bit better every time. And so when you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, wow, this is way better than I ever thought it was going to be. So,
I think it goes back to what Bradley was talking about last week. He was asking me, do I regret these things that I never give essence to? And I don't, because they all build on each other. Even if they never see the light of day, there's some nugget of what I've done before that's going to add to what I'm going to do in the future. So it's not about creating the perfect thing every single time. It is about building that tenacity to build the best thing, and kudos to you for doing it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And I was going to say too, our business is so hard. Like this is a really difficult business to be in. It's been even harder because of the strikes going, harder because of just seeing kind of like the business side of entertainment, right? And I think that, again, we as artists have to really realize, like, why do we do this? Why do we really do this? And it's because most of the time, because we have to. There's no other choice. We have no other way to express ourselves. And so if we don't do this, you're losing yourself. And I'm like, no, I'm never going to do that. I'll wait tables for the rest of my fucking life if it means that I can continue to act and continue to tell stories if I want to. And I think that for most of us, we'd accept it. We do this for free all the time if we had to. And obviously I don't want that. None of us want that. We want to get paid for our work. But at the same token, it's also like what it feeds your soul on a daily basis, and what feeds your essence of like, why am I here? What do I want to do? And I just think that for us as artists, it's like, find that thing and just never let it go, because people will gravitate to it. They 100% will. If you're passionate about it, they will be passionate about it.
Well said.
So I think you've already alluded to this a little bit, but what is it that scares you the most?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've really been struggling lately, and I'll be honest. I mean, because like been going to therapy for about a year, and like I think what scares me the most is just this feeling of like, what happens when we die, and like, are we going to be remembered for the things that we love to do? And I just like, I've had this existential pit in my stomach for months now, and like I just feel like, for me, it's funny because people always say, why do you like horror so much? Everyone's dying all the time. And I'm like, well, that's why I like horror, because horror is never afraid to express what is the unexpressible, which is that we all are going to die. We all have a finite time on this earth at some point that we're going to go. And there's a certain freedom in that I think that allows us to explore empathy even more. If you notice, horror fans, some of them are the most empathetic people in the world, because they understand that we all live in this flesh. At some point it's going to go away. And I would rather see somebody get chopped up by Jason than go watch the news, because it's horrifying, the things that we do to other people. And horror to me is an escape of saying, hey, at least in this world, maybe evil exists, but maybe it can be put away. Maybe it can be combated. Maybe it can be done something to. So I think there's hope in horror where there isn't always hope in other things. And for me, what scares me is just, this feeling that I've never really been scared of that many, like, I don't know, there's images in my mind that have scared me throughout my life. Like I remember vividly when I watched RoboCop for the first time, that image of that dude in acid and then he just gets run over is one of the most visceral images ever. And I remember that being like a kid and me like, oh my God. But there's like some of those grotesque images that stay with you. But I think it's really more about the existential stuff for me that scares me, is that this, like, why are we here? Like, what are we doing here? And like, especially if you're not a godly person or whatever, you're not supremely spiritual, it's even more like, okay, so like, what's our purpose? Like why are we here, and what are we doing? And I think that there's, again, a freedom in realizing that, like, you need to follow the things that you love and the passions that you cannot ignore, because otherwise what are we even doing? So
yeah, it's funny. I was going to say you were afraid of the Hallmark Channel, but I liked yours.
Yeah,
that was much deeper than my surface.
What are you guys scared of?
Chris?
I guess my biggest fear is that nobody knows I exist. And I know that people know I exist, but at the same time, it's just, I guess so. Mm-hmm. Bob?
I'm going to say, I had the opportunity to go to, this is going to be so out of left field. I had the opportunity to go to a meditation retreat this past weekend. And I'm working on all that stuff that all of you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, my biggest fear at this moment is that I will contract around those fears and go into a death spiral with them, flaming into the ground, and just hoping that doesn't happen.
So I guess you would be Charlie Brown to Lucy's the Christmas episode. We all know what I'm talking about, where she says, I know what you're afraid of. Yeah. And what is it? It's not tryptodecaphobia, is it? What is it? No, that's fear of the number 13. I
thought you were
down the list.
Tryptophanophobia,
a fear of Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Tryptophan. Yeah, exactly.
I think you said something really important though early on, Ryan, about the importance of kindness in everything that we're doing. And that's a real buffer for those other things.
No, I think so. And I think, Bob, at the end of the day, it's like, how are you treating people? And like, it's just, like I said, I never want to waste anybody's time. I never want to take advantage of anyone. I want to be able to collaborate and work with people that I respect and admire. And I've gotten the chance to do that with a lot of incredible people, you guys included. And it's just been, it's been an awesome experience. And like, I just, it takes a village. And I don't think people realize that. Like, none of this stuff, we praise our favorite filmmakers and our favorite actors and everything, like Martin Scorsese and, all these people. And it's like, they work with tons and tons of collaborators all the time. And it's never one person doing this stuff. It is a team of people that they have all gotten together to realize a singular vision that gets put either on the screen or, in your ear or on your television. And it's, and entertainment is not an easy business. And so to do this, it's just like, you got to practice kindness. You got to practice. Like, I got to work with these people for however long. And I never wanted to be anything but fun, anything but like chasing that rush of like, man, this is cool, so like that's the thing.
That is a thing.
It is the thing. It is the thing, right? Was that Shakespeare?
I don't
know.
I got
he was the guy that lived, right? He's one of those guys.
We're still talking about him. Go figure.
I'm really curious for you guys. Do you guys have any Halloween traditions?
For me, I mean, mine, I guess 3 or 4 years now has been not the same because my kids are grown up now. And so, yeah, we would go house to house, and we lived in a part of town. Okay. I'll admit that I live in a city where imbibing in adult beverages is a constant thing. So what we would do in our little park called Ardsley is we would go from door to door, and the adults would walk around with their solo cups and have a good time. But yeah, that was kind of our tradition, was just going trick-or-treating with the kids and being very good about it. And I'm not saying we're getting wasted walking around. We're just having a good time. But now it's gotten where we'll just go to somebody's house and sit outside and just enjoy the kids coming by, even though our kids are grown, and just handing out candy that way, being the creepy old people giving out candy. I think that's my new tradition. Bob, what's yours?
I started to try a tradition, and I haven't kept it up very well because of circumstances. I may be reintroducing it this year. For a production that I produced, a live production, we had these bear heads. And so I would put the bear head on and like a lab coat, like a doctor's lab coat, and go out with the candy and dance on the sidewalk in front of the house and like stop cars to give them candy. And yeah, it was so much fun. So much fun.
That is
terrifying.
Genius. I love that, Bob. I have that picture in my head now, and I can't get it out.
Good luck.
Thinking about Midsommar here. That's what I'm thinking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What about you yourself? What is your Halloween tradition?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit every year now because of like whenever it falls or what have you. I remember one year in LA, my girlfriend and I went and saw at the Ace Hotel. We saw Nosferatu live, and it was with the symphony, and that was so much fun.
Wow.
That was amazing. The last year we actually just stayed in. We watched a ton of horror movies. I usually, like, right around this time is when I start watching like all of the really classic like Halloween specials. Like we watch like Sleepy Hollow Ichabod and that one, the Disney one. We watch like Disney's Halloween Treat. We watch like Halloween 3, which is Season of the Witch, which is very Halloween themed, and we'll watch like Trick or Treat, which is one of my favorite horror anthologies. And so we'll watch a ton of horror movies. And I think this year we're going to be going to a friend's house, and we're just gonna we'll probably end up handing out candy to kids, and we'll probably just put on a bunch of horror movies and watch them and have a couple of adult beverages and hang out. But yeah, I mean, we did do some Halloween stuff this year. We went to Angel of Light, which my friend JP helped produce, and that was in downtown LA. It was like an immersive experience, so much fun. And then we did a couple of Halloween parties and stuff. I'm going to a gothic prom tonight, so that'll be a blast. Wow. So there's just stuff like that I just absolutely love doing, and I think it's I love this time of the year, and it's sad because in LA it really doesn't get cold and kind of like Halloweeny until really like a day or two before Halloween. But just, seeing the autumn leaves, seeing the pumpkins around, seeing everybody's decorations, it's just such a fun time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the decorations, and I love watching all the kids, what they come up with.
It's amazing. Yeah, the last
Spider-Man's. Do I have to look
I was just going to say that the last Halloween costume party I went to, I think this will tell you how long ago it was. There were 11 11s.
That's superb.
Serious.
Superb.
So many waffles.
What? Oh, got it. Yeah, of course. And then there was somebody dressed up as a waffle, I'm sure.
Well,
yeah. So the character Mr. Graves, where does that come from?
Oh man, that is it's funny because when we did the original shorts for them, and we have like if you go to my Instagram page, which is at Your Horror Show, you can see like kind of the pictures of the actual character when we had the makeup effects. That took like 4 hours to do. Such a long makeup thing. And we didn't have a name for the character at that time. And then when during the pandemic, when I was doing these kind of like campfire tale things, which are little like videos, I was like, well, we need a name for this character. And I was like, yeah, Mr. Graves sounds fun. It's like kind of like camping. And for me, I really wanted to combine the sophistication of Rod Serling with kind of the jokiness of the Crypt Keeper, because like there's a certain element of both of those classic hosts that are just so iconic, which is like, Serling was obviously in a a suit, smoking a cigarette, and the way that he would just kind of flash on screen and just say, this is the Twilight Zone. You just knew you were like in it. And then with the Crypt Keeper was always like just the greatest puns in the world, and then his laugh was amazing. And so I was like, well, you have to like, let's kind of combine this together and make it a little bit more sophisticated, where Graves is like talking about thematic natures of like what we're about to witness with some of those puns. And so kind of have a fun in between there for this character. Those are the two anthology shows that I just love the most. And like, Tales from the Crypt was so iconic because there was, if you look back now, I have all the DVDs, but like the amount of stars in that show was absolutely bonkers. The amount of just amazing actors they had for it. And those episodes were so gross and iconic. And so yeah, I really tried to borrow from both of those. I still think Twilight Zone is the creme de la creme of horror. And I do have my thing right there. That is Rod Serling.
Yeah.
So but
the old Marlboro there.
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of like, his output too, god damn, he wrote 150 episodes of that show, and I would argue 70% of them are bangers, like just incredible writing. And so he's definitely like just an icon in his own right. So
and the actors on those as well.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Burgess Meredith was in 5 episodes of it, and
my favorite episode.
Yeah. Which I'm assuming Time Enough at Last. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Crack these. There we go.
Don't break your glasses.
So, and these horror anthologies are really, really coming back to what's your favorite out there?
I've never been a huge fan of Black Mirror. I think the episodes are slightly too long. I prefer the 20-30 minute episode when I watch my anthologies, because I just feel like the longer they go on, the more you're like, yes, we know. Okay,
we get it.
Yeah, and I enjoyed some of Guillermo del Toro's anthology. I thought some of them were really fun. I was not a fan of all of them, but I thought some of them were really cool gothic horror ones. I think the first episode was really fun. I think it was like Lot something, whatever. I liked that one a lot. But for me, I'm still waiting for the next great horror anthology. I thought Jordan Peele's adaptation of the Twilight Zone was fine. But again, I think the biggest problem lies in when you go to 45 minutes to an hour for these things, the themes get really repetitive by that point, and you're just kind of like, yes, we know, okay, and we were like, just get to the ending, and like, so for me, where it's like, I really enjoy stuff that is in that 20-30 minute time span. I will admit, I've been watching the new Goosebumps. It's actually really fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's not a true anthology in the vein of every episode is different. It's a serialized anthology where they still have
they connect
characters, and then they still play with the kind of conceits in every episode with the stories. But I'm really curious. I know that M. Night Shyamalan was like this close to bringing back Tales from the Crypt, but because of their massive rights issues, that never happened. So that we'll probably never get it. And if we do, it'll be in another decade or so. But for me, I'm waiting for the next great anthology. Trick or Treat for me is, I think, probably one of the greatest anthology horror films. And I watch that every year. It's phenomenal. Michael Dougherty just crushes it. But in terms of a TV show, I mean, I watch Twilight Zone all the time. I watch Tales from the Crypt all the time. Tales from the Dark Side has some good ones, and it also has some stinkers, like all do. But I really love those. And then Creep Show, the new series, it's fine. I really wish the Creep had more personality. I think that's what's missing from that show. It's having the host is so important for these types of shows. Like if you don't have a great one,
if you don't have a great host,
it's kind of done for me.
One of my favorites is actually the original Creep Show movie.
Oh yeah, I love Creep Show 1 is great. So fun.
Yeah. Ted Danson getting buried in the sand.
Yeah. Well, and that one was loaded with great guest stars. And then I even love, Creep Show 2 is fun. And even I love Tales the movie. The movie's great.
Tales from the Crypt, the movie?
Tales from the Dark Side, the movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You broke up just for a second. Yeah.
I was going to say that was the unofficial Creep Show 3, because they didn't make a Creep Show 3, and they were like, well, we have these stories. You want to do Tales from the Dark Side. And so, but that one is really fun as well. I really enjoy that one.
And the original Twilight Zone movie?
Yeah, I like two of the segments are incredible, and the other two are meh. But I loved Joe Dante's take on Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. That was a blast. And then I loved
anything with John Lithgow is
I mean, he was so good in that. I mean, he ramps up the paranoia to like 5,000. And then It's a Wonderful Life. The adaptation of the Billy Mummy episode is really fun too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Such great stuff.
Yeah. Well, guys, we have gone on for almost an hour, and this has been thoroughly. Yeah, we have. It's crazy. It happens. You get to talking, and then you lose track of time. And I got to say, Ryan, you are an accomplished conversationalist. This is
thanks,
you're great at it. We will. I know we'll get together again to do something real soon. Maybe 100%. Monster Talk. Maybe. There's talk of Monster Talk. We'll see.
Yeah, dude. That would be a great podcast, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
You guys should think about that. That would be a lot of fun. You just combining the things that you're doing. It's just, and I was talking, we were talking real quick before you go, but we were talking before I came on, but I was just saying, like, the hardest part is getting started with all this stuff. I mean, it really is. Like once you get a rhythm going and you start to really figure it out, it becomes a lot easier, but the getting started is for everybody is the toughest part. And that's just, it's figuring out what's your format. And for me, the hardest part is finding a good sound person. Like that is just a hard thing, because there's so much work that goes into podcast sound that you just do not see behind the scenes. And that's another big one. But once you find those things, it becomes a lot easier. And then that show, Chris, I always think about, I'm like, yeah, that'd be a fun show. You should do that. So you guys, you and oh my God, why am I blanking on her name right now? You and Nikki. Yeah, you and Nikki are just the brainchilds of that one, and I feel like it would be really fun for you guys to do.
Yeah. Chris French, huge component of that too, and we talked about it as well. We'll see what happens, but there's never an end to anything, really. It's only ever going. Anyway, so again, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us, and Bob, thank you for filling in for Bradley.
Sure, and Ryan, had a great time at the prom tonight.
Yes,
thank you. Yeah, exactly. Gothic prom, baby.
Watch out for the punch. I'm sure somebody's going to spike it. And the way we like to close this out is, and we just started this last week, really, we just play the music again and see what happens.
Don't stop. Don't stop. Like anyone should know. Like anyone should know. You brought the cheese into my life. You plopped it down onto a plate. You made me feel like you didn't know what you were doing. What you were doing. You brought the veg into my life. You sliced it up on that same plate. You made me feel like you didn't know what you were doing. What you were doing.